there was a happiness in his life because he'd done something difficult that he'd always wanted to do, and he was able to pass it on to other people. And all that comes together in this bottle of wine. I can remember drinking it with him, where we drank it, what it tasted like. And that was 40 years ago, so...
Really?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Unforgettable.
Yeah.
And do you think great wine, need to have the capacity to age, or great wine can be young?
Well, the word great is something we choose to apply to things, to add a certain quality to them. You know, what is a great painter, what is a great building, what is a great play? It's something which is very good, and then more than that, plus. Conventionally, we use the word great about wines that can mature profitably, that have matured profitably, that take on qualities as mature wines that they didn't have when they were young. And there are certain wines that have been designed in that way. I mean, look, the great Bordeaux are good wines when they're young. They can become great wines when they are mature. But there's a modern misunderstanding here, which is that when you buy them, they're great. You know, a brand new bottle of Chateau Latour is not great. It's going to be great one day.
To be aged.
And this leads to stupid misunderstandings, and you know, the ultra-rich people who say 2009 greatest vintage ever, Chateau Latour greatest chateau ever. Give it to me. I want to taste it. And then they taste it. And they say, well, it's
yeah, needs time. Needs time.
So greatness has to be earned by time and by understanding as well.
Yes, wine needs patience.
If an inexperienced person cannot find greatness in a wine because he doesn't know what he's looking for.
Yes, maybe. The drinker must be great too.
The drinker must be great too.
What do you think is the relation between wine and words? Do you think it's possible to taste by reading, or do you think it's possible to really describe sensation of
No, I don't
wines?
think it is. I don't think it is, and I think lots of people try far too hard to find a word to apply to each of the fleeting sensations on their palate and in their nose, and they give you a list of guavas and chirimoyas and blackberries and blueberries and oranges and lemons, which makes no sense. That's not what the wine tastes like. What I have tried to do is to use words to say what excites me about the wine, which is not always just the flavour. The most useful words in our vocabulary are not adjectives, they're verbs. Different wines do different things to you, and if you can find a way of expressing that, then you actually can lead the reader into understanding.
Great. I personally try a lot to describe wines, and sometimes I read and say, well, this wine is much more than I said.
Yeah.
There's much more to say about each wine.
Yeah.
So I feel frustrated sometimes.
There are so many ways of talking about it. I mean, if a wine really starts you off and you think this is exciting, then a good way to do it might be to tell a story about it. You know, because you've got to use the language. You've got to use all the possibilities of simile and metaphor and storytelling to engage people.
You have a long list of books, and you contributed a lot to the wine industry and to the wine readers. Which one do you think is your greatest contribution?
My books?
Maybe your books or anything else you can.
Well, probably one of my books. I think my history book, really. I mean, in a sense, my atlas, the World Atlas of Wine, is a great compilation. I mean, I worked as an encyclopedist, if you like, as a geographer. I put together the geographical essence of wine, but it was almost a mechanical process. but more personal books are different. I mean, I think that the story of wine, my history book, only I could have done because that was my reading of history, and I had that way of making it exciting. And similarly, my memoirs, they're much more personal, but they explain what the wine is for me.
Great. And you are making since '93 wines in Hungary.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Why Hungary? Did you had already any special taste for sweet wines and special passion?
Yes, I mean, sweet wines are not my absolute favorite. No, not at all. I went to Hungary as a journalist in 1970, and I was taken to Tokaj, which I'd heard of. It was one of those fables like Constantia in South Africa, and one of those things that had once been the world's favorite wine. They could be more expensive than anything else in the late 18th century, early 19th century. And in 1970 I went there and I saw this region really down on its luck, and very beautiful but really poor, and tasted astounding old wines going back 150 years.
Wow.
In these fantastic cellars. And I knew I'd tasted one of the greatest wines, one of the greatest products of nature ever. I mean, there was no mistaking it. It was astounding. And then I sort of almost forgot about it because communism was a dead hand on Eastern Europe, and Hungary was in a bad way. And the communist regime was getting worse in the 70s.
The Cold War was in this
Yes, but
worst time.
The command economy, socialism was really biting, and the wine was being made under terrible circumstances and overproduced. They were just pumping out hundreds of thousands of hectolitres of rubbish. And then when we saw in the 80s, after perestroika and so on, we saw that there was hope for Eastern Europe, and finally when the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, the most exciting year of my life, in a way, seeing communism unravel. I thought, well, there's one great wine which is stuck behind the Iron Curtain. The only one, that was the greatest wine of Eastern Europe. Everybody said so, everyone agreed, and it was stuck. So I thought, well, maybe we could help to revive it. And I went there with some friends, in particular a Danish friend called Peter Vinding Diers, who was a very, very good winemaker. He had a property in Bordeaux. He learned in South Africa. His sons now make wine in South America. I mean, it's a very good winemaking family. Anyway, he and I went to Tokaj, and we did some research there. We found some people privately making good wine in very small quantities. I mean, 1 barrel here and 1 barrel there. And we thought, yes, this could be done. We could provide the expertise and the marketing and bring Tokaj back to the top. So we started this company early in 1990, just after the revolution. And we managed to buy some of the small barrels of wine that were high quality then. We invented the name, the Royal Tokaj Wine Company. And we were in business. And well, you will probably have heard from Ben Howkins.
Yes, and I tasted the wine. The wines are great.
The wines are fantastic now. Even at the beginning, some of our wines were fantastic because the industry generally was a disaster, but individuals, I mean, for example, Istvan Sepsi was a producer we bought wine from him, and he first managed our company. I mean, he is now the superstar winemaker of Hungary. So the talent was there, but it was being misdirected.
So you discover and show it to the
So we were able to show the world that, and it had always been super rare, Tokaj. I mean, it was the wine that the Tsar of Russia drank, the Emperor of Austria, the Queen of England maybe. It wasn't in the market like port here. I mean, what does the English drink? port, claret. The only wine merchant who